I think everybody has to look in the mirror and genuinely challenge themselves and say, what am I hiding? What am I full of shit about?
This is the Token CEO podcast. It's Thursday, March 10th, 2022. This is episode 206. Please watch this on YouTube. So if you're listening to this right now, make producer Bryn very happy and go to www.youtube.com and search Token CEO podcast and enjoy this on your YouTube instead. All right, so for today's episode, we've got five big things actually today. You get a bonus this Thursday. We've got what's going on in my world. We're joined by special guest Paul Rabel. So Paul Rabel, who founded the Premier Lacrosse League, is joining. We're doing Q&A as always. Love Q&A. We've got Gary Vee here, which is a fascinating conversation. I love that Gary Vee. He just makes me think. And then we'll do close of business like we always do, which is our take on the headlines. What's happening at Barstool Sports? Okay. We've got March Madness coming up. So we had a big call this morning on our sports bars. So we've opened a sports bar in Chicago, which, conventional wisdom would say never open any type of entity in Chicago in January. Despite the frigid Midwestern winter, we've got people going to this bar. We're trying to figure out how to make it more of a nightlife destination. It also sounds like people in Chicago are going back to work. So we're trying to figure out how to make the Barstool Bar on River North a destination for people. So if you live in Chicago, maybe we'll do a token meetup there. That'd be cool, actually.
That'd be really fun.
I'd be super into that. I love Chicago. And then we're also opening. We have a bar location in Philadelphia. So we are opening in Philly. We had a test run for the Super Bowl, which was run by the Penn VIP folks, which went great. Dan and Dave will be there on March 17th and 18th. So we're trying to figure out if it's open to the public or just open to us, but we're excited to have another destination. We love these bars. We think they're great. We're also going to be opening in Arizona as well as in Nashville. So I'm headed to Nashville this week. I'm going to go see our bar. I'm going to get on the bus with the Bussin' Boys, which I'm excited about. So that's one part of what's happening in my world. Other part of my world is Deirdre. I'm now the CFO, CRO, head of production, and head of revenue, which is a lot. I was like jamming out emails till so late last night, but I'm excited for the changes ahead. I've talked about them the last couple of weeks on this show. The thing that I love that actually I'm so inspired by are the people who've really come out of the woodwork to help. I think one of the really amazing things that happens when there's turnover or turmoil or chaos or change is that people do, I think, one of like three things. One is the best people rise to the occasion. Like we have had so many people here just step the fuck up, ask to do more, find ways to help, become super proactive, solution-oriented, like ready to relook at everything, ready to check the ego and say, hey, like maybe we should do things differently. I love those kind of people. I think the second group of people is just nervous and, just kind of squirrels around and is just nervous and has anxiety, which is, frankly, natural and understandable. I don't know that helps further, that doesn't get the ball down any further down the field, but I think it's very understandable. And then I would say like you have kind of the third group, which is really kind of manifests in two ways. It's the power play people, which are like, hey, here's an opportunity for me to kill that person I didn't like and that person I didn't like and the way we were doing things. And it's a way for people to grab more quote unquote power. It's kind of like anything. It's like that Breakfast Club quote at the end of Breakfast Club, which most people who listen to this are probably too young to enjoy. But like every single one of us has the delinquent, has the wrestling star, has the princess, like everyone is all of those things. I think the other thing is, everyone has anxiety and nervousness. I have it. I'm like, Jesus Christ, we have so much to do. How am I going to get through this? I think everyone has nasty negative comments inside of them, which they decide how and where those play out. And then hopefully inside of everyone is the desire to contribute to something and to make it great. And I'm excited for that. I also feel like, again, we've talked about this the last couple episodes. It's so interesting how siloed we got and how calcified everything became and how we just stopped thinking. It's like we overcomplicated this business in ways that we didn't need to. And in a lot of ways, because we either had too much oversight over things or not enough oversight over things. And I think, look, when you're growing exponentially, when I look at our first quarter revenue this year over last year, we're up 60%. So like that's crazy growth. It's hard to manage crazy growth. I also am starting to second guess myself in that, I was having this conversation yesterday of like, it would probably be easier just to replace Deirdre and Wajiha and Jen or whatever and just like set it and forget it and let it just find a warm body and put them in the spot. But I actually just don't believe in that. I think we have to change everything right now. Like everything that wasn't working has to be changed. And I think that is the harder way. It's the worst. It's the short term, a worse path. But long term will create, I think, so much more gain. And I feel like I've learned a lot in this process about, the warning signs were there on some of this stuff. I didn't listen to them. How could I have figured this out sooner? I also feel like, God, I want to leave Barstool Sports in great shape. I want to build a world that exists without me, right? I'm not going anywhere. I'm not going anywhere forever. But it would be awesome if Barstool Sports ran without me having to be HR, finance, production, and sales. So like I have a lot of work to do there. And then I also just really want to find, more of these people who really come in and just rise to the occasion. I think at work you have this choice to be productive or not productive, positive or toxic, collaborative or uncollaborative, out for yourself or your org or your team, or out for the greater good. And we have a lot of people here who mean really well, who care an incredible amount. And that's the biggest single advantage this company will always have. Now the question is, how do we get these people to understand what to do and how to do it and to evolve that? And then how do we get rid of the people who are weighing the whole thing down or being toxic in the process? Those are things that I'm thinking about. So the other big news in my world is that I'm joining the board of the PLL, which is the Premier Lacrosse League. So the PLL is the definitive marquee professional lacrosse league in this country. The PLL bought the MLL, which predated the PLL, so that's the Major League Lacrosse. That's Major League Lacrosse. I met with Paul Rabel and Mike Rabel, I think in 2017, early 2017. And Paul talks about it on this episode, but he basically crawled into my DMs, was like, hey, would you ever want to meet? And it was really early days in Barstool, and I was still like, my hair was on fire here and trying to figure out what we were going to do. And anybody who knows me knows that I'm like super scheduled. Like I've got something every 30 minutes, and Paul and Mike showed up and spent 2 hours. And what I loved was that Paul Rabel was the golden child of lacrosse. He was making $1 million plus, maybe $2 million a year in endorsements. He was the star of the MLL, and he wanted to give all of that up to create a league that put the players first and that ultimately was better and showcased the sport in a more beautiful way. And I've honestly been on the journey ever since, and I'm really committed to it, and I'm excited to be part of their board. They've got a great board, really esteemed, established people. They don't have any women, so I'm excited to be a woman on the board. And then I'm also excited to help them think about, are they an entertainment company? Are they a league? Are they a collection of teams? Are they a sport? What are they, and how are they all of those things? And bringing that to life in a way that grows the game for the future is, I think, pretty awesome. So I'm excited and honored to do that.
Few people know that Erika and I met in 2017 when she first took the job here and was the first CEO at Barstool. And I slid into her DMs because I read the New York Times article.
Okay. Oh, shit.
And in the New York Times article, she was like, yeah, I played lacrosse. And I got up at 4 o'clock every morning to learn how to play lacrosse because I was behind.
Which is fun to outwork everybody.
You still do that?
No, I'm like you. I've gotten more sensitive, and I've gotten more like introspective, and What do you want from your life? Like sports is, you're right. You can get so consumed by sports, and business is the same way. It's one thing to like will something to happen through your ability or your work ethic. It's another thing to inspire others to do that, or inspire others to take it to a new place. What do you think about that?
I think it makes a lot of sense, and it's also, attributed a lot to why we're sitting down. So we haven't made this announcement.
Yes, you're going to make the announcement. Okay, you make the announcement.
So Erika is joining our board of directors.
Yes, I am.
Yeah.
The only woman.
The only woman. Our first appointment, though.
Really?
Right? Yeah, because...
All right, I'll take that.
Because what most people don't realize...
I feel like I've been on your board forever, just to be honest.
You've been
I'm on your
confidant.
personal board, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm on the Paul Rabel board. Whose board are you on? Paul Rabel. Paul Rabel Inc. It's true. I'm a big champion of Paul Rabel.
So your history in business, like Microsoft, AOL, Yahoo, and Barstool, and you're on the board of the WWE.
Yeah.
But you've worked in the startup space, so there's a lot of you're right. You're the first woman on our board, but there's a lot of unknown knowledge because in business, especially in like the startup space, in pro sports leagues or other public facing properties, it's like boom, they need to be 0 to 60 immediately. When you build a company and you have to raise a bunch of capital, your board appoints itself, right?
Yeah, that's
it's like
right.
how much money this
Your
group...
board is your money.
That's right.
Yeah.
And we have an amazing
Which
board.
is awesome. You have great money.
Yeah. So we have Joe Ty, we have Doc O'Connor, we have Brett Jefferson, we have Blair Ford, my brother and myself, and you now. And so you reach a place which we've been excited to continue to grow to then as the company matures, you can start doing things like appointing new board members. So we appointed.
That's exciting. I'm excited. I think it's amazing. I think that I remember when you guys came and saw me in 2017 and you were like, we have this idea for this league. And Jordy had just written something about how you were playing for the MLL and it was like you guys couldn't even get warm showers in your like some shitty locker room in like out Virginia. But we've come so far, and I think, the idea of revolutionizing a sport, you look at like what's happening now, like MLB is giving the rights to Apple and NBC. Like it's just so traditional.
Yeah.
Like leagues are so traditional, and you have this opportunity to create an entertainment property. Like you are making so much content around the sport and trying to build and create the sport the same way WWE did for wrestling.
Yeah.
And building it on storylines and entertainment value and fans and rivalries is, I think, so important.
Yeah, and we're constantly juggling because when we launched, it was easier for us to just launch on innovation, and our whole business model was different.
Yeah, it was
and tour-based.
amazing. Yep.
And then you reach a point where our lacrosse audience, we've gathered, call it half of it in way of viewership and engagement. And that's nuts for a league, right? There's like 2 billion basketball fans in the world, and not nearly a quarter of them are consuming the NBA because it's just a lot of people. And so we have reached a place where we have the lacrosse audience in the US, and now we want to get net new fans and like casual sports fans everywhere. And we were sitting in our first board meeting where you were attending, and I'll just admit, like, I've been over the last like 6 to 9 months been like, okay, how do we in a way like regulate and get more traditional because we bought the MLL.
You had to.
Yeah, you've got to build that structure, and you're like, hey, dude, no, like keep innovating, keep pushing.
Yeah.
And I was like, you're right.
Okay, so talk about what's coming up this season.
So like tent poles in sports are your network deal, which we have an announcement coming up we haven't made yet, and then who's on field because everyone sees that. And for the first 3 years, we had Adidas on field. And then last year, we had Champion on the sidelines with us. So there's all this cool unveil that we did with Champion. And now we made the announcement that they're on field with us as a jersey partner.
I'm so excited for this season.
Yeah.
Are you going to root for a team or no?
I mean, I'm naturally going to root for the Cannons.
Yeah, okay, same.
Yeah. I'm like Cannons through and through.
Okay, all the way.
Drafted by them.
I love that.
We got to come back to them.
Yeah, you closed it out with
play.
them. That's great.
Yeah, I mean, you never know the future either. You know what I mean?
You want to come back?
I don't know.
Paul Rabel, really?
I've been like kind of playing with it on social.
That's big. Are you in shape?
Well, no. I had surgery on my knee, so I haven't even begun to jog yet. So.
Well, you gotta get going.
But I just fucking love playing.
Well, then get back. At least
It
try.
would be fun.
Do it.
You know,
what else do you have to do?
It would be fun. Not much.
Yeah, exactly. That's my point. That's like me thinking I'm not going to work. I'm like,
I mean, the hard part, I always knew this was going to happen, is like, damn, my heydays passed me when, you know, there was not much of a professional lacrosse presence. And part of like going in and building this thing and having like ridiculous operators and board of directors around us, that like the next versions are going to crush.
Yeah,
like they're going to be on the biggest networks.
You had a great season last season.
I had a good season. I don't know, it felt good. But maybe that was because I knew it was my last season. So one of those scraping
think so. Do you think
Let's talk about this privately on Paul Rabel Inc.
Okay, fine. I was like, do I have any influence over this? I might have influence over this.
I'm already working the board vote.
Yeah, I'm in. Do we have to vote on that?
No.
I would love that.
Quick shout out to Celsius. So I've got Celsius right here, tropical vibe Celsius. What's great about Celsius is it helps you stay active and energized all day. It's 0 sugar. It's got 7 essential vitamins. It's not your traditional energy drink, but it is a drink that gives you a crazy good amount of energy. So you can enjoy their flavors of watermelon, grape, mango passion fruit, raspberry acai. Acai? I mean, what is acai? It's just, I hate an acai bowl. All right. Anyways, I will not be having the acai raspberry, but I will partake in the peach mango. Strawberry guava sounds delicious. The list goes on and on and on. What's also awesome about Celsius is they have other lines of products, including Celsius Heat, which includes caffeine to help boost energy. They've got Celsius BCAA plus energy. And then they've got Celsius on the go, which are little packets, which you can put into whatever water you are drinking to improve the flavor and give you that much needed boost. So if you go to Celsius.com, you can order online. You can also find Celsius at Amazon, Walmart, or Target. Try Celsius and live fit. All right, Q&A. First Q&A question, how do you go about getting yourself on track to a C-suite position? Do you crush middle management? Do you crush sales? What's the most effective route? Okay, this is a good question. Let's be honest, there are probably 4 C-suite jobs in any company, right? So you've got your CFO, you've got your CRO or your salesperson, you've got a CPO, which is your chief people officer, you obviously have a CEO. Sometimes there's like chief commercial officer or chief digital officer. So essentially the group is very, very small. So most people, I think, will not end up in one of those jobs. That doesn't mean that you can't be in a job that has crazy influence in a company, right? Like I worked for Microsoft and Yahoo, and if you were a senior vice president at Microsoft or Yahoo, you ran, thousands and thousands of people and had a very, very powerful job. So I think this question is about like, how do you rise up in your career and how do you get to the top of the heap in terms of the company you're either working at or the sector you want to work in? I generally tend to think that there's a couple paths. So one path is revenue. Salespeople, you bring in the money. The people who bring in money at a company are very powerful in that company. It's hard to bring in money. It's the hardest job. It's also the most valuable job, or in some cases, the most valuable job. And it is a very specific job. Those people tend to know the story of the company. They know the customers of the company. They obviously know the revenue of the company. They're very critical to understanding how to help the company have revenue growth. Most companies' growth is defined by how much revenue they make. So the sales is one good way to move up the ranks. The second way, which I think is one of the most interesting ways, is to understand product. So you understand the product that company makes. So you either understand, if you're making washing machine widgets, you understand how to make the best washing machine widget. If you are in a social media company, you understand the algorithm, right? You're the Mark Zuckerberg. You're the Jack Dorsey, right? You came up through product or engineering. So the second path is, I think, is really the product people, or people who understand how the product is made, what the product should be, what the customer ultimately wants, and how to deliver it to them. Those people and that path is a great way to move into the C-suite. And then I think the third path is on the finance side, right? You understand how the business is engineered. You understand how the money flows in and how the money flows out. When you look at Peloton right now, they had a founder CEO. Now they brought in a CFO CEO. So the path to CEO in that case was from someone who moved up the ranks in finance. So long story short, I think if you want to end up at the top of the heap, no matter what company you're in, what sector you work for, or what job you have, the three best paths to get there are sales, product, or finance, right? You work in recruiting, you tend to not end up running a company. Now, if you're the single fucking best recruiter out there, you could end up as the chief people officer. That makes sense. So it kind of gets to another answer to this question is, the more responsibility you can take on, the more holistic view you have of your company and what you're trying to accomplish and how it can best be accomplished. I think those people, kind of to my earlier rant about Barstool, it's those people who are going to end up in charge. Second question, what's your advice on defining your role at a young company when you're forced to wear a lot of hats? That's a great question. I think one of the greatest things about a startup is you do get to wear a ton of hats, and any hour in any given day, you have a different job and you have a different outlook and you have a different mission and you have a different task at hand. Sometimes you can get lost in that, where you're just doing a random bunch of projects and it never amounts to anything. You don't end up in a better place. It's hard to think about what would your job be if you didn't work at this company. Sometimes I feel like that for people here, where at least I did more so in our early days. So in 2016, 2017, I would say to Gaz, like, Gaz, what's the job you would get if you didn't work at Barstool? Like, how would you frame what you do here to be able to equip you for what you could do out there, right? In those days, Gaz was like, I'm Dave's guy. I film the pizza reviews. I do a little of this. I do the social. I do a little of that. I think the best way to think about what you do is to really hone it down to what are the single biggest things that you contribute to that help move the company forward? What are the single biggest things that you enjoy doing the most and that you're the best at? And to use an external frame of reference when defining what that thing is, right? Everyone can take on side projects or special projects or a little bit of extra this or miscellaneous that. That's life. I think that's what keeps a job interesting, to be honest with you. But when you're thinking about defining what you do, I would really look at what is it you're good at, what is it the company values, and then also be sure you're looking outside to understand what the comparable would be. What would this job look like somewhere else? And use that as your job description. I would avoid a catch-all job description, like chief of staff, tough job description. Special projects, kiss of death. So don't have a special projects job title, have a real job title. Even if your job is a hodgepodge of a lot of things, pick one of them to make your job title or your job, your role description, and then I think ultimately find a way to put more of your time and energy into doing those type of projects. All right, third Q&A is advice on dealing with a hyper micromanager. Oof, that sounds like a nightmare. Being newer to a company and wanting to make good impressions, but also wanting the environment to work for me too. Of course you want your work environment to work for you. Being managed by a hyper micromanager sounds like a fucking disaster. So I would not like that. I had a micromanager once. I thought she was like a fucking idiot. Like, I could not stand working for this woman. She was a micromanager and she wasn't smart. And I just was like, you are the worst. So anyways, how do you deal with a micromanager? One is you got to box out. You got to
don't have sharp elbows, but have elbows. You got to make space for yourself. So I would proactively communicate early and often, hey, I'm doing this, I'm doing this, I'm doing this. I would also be very forthright, which is, hey, my work style is this. I like to work independently, use words like independently. I'll check in when I need help. Could we move all of our check-ins to a once a week one-on-one versus a 5 times a day Slack or text or email check-in? So I would really just try to box out a little bit, and I would also try to understand what is it about that person that's causing them to micromanage? Do they want a lot of control? Are they worried about the quality of your work product? Are they just super anal and nervous and just a ticked and tied person? Try to understand what the motivation is and try to give yourself enough space in that to be able to thrive at work. I think being micromanaged is probably the quickest way to quit a job because it's just not fun. And maybe your manager needs some help. The other thing you could do is if your company has an HR department, just say, hey, my work style and my manager's work style aren't really simpatico, right? Like they don't go together great. What are your pieces of advice? I'm not an HR person, even though I do run HR at this company now. They might have better advice on how you manage that, and they might be able to help your manager as well. Speaking of being a great manager, we have Gary Vee with us today. So Gary Vee is Gary Vee. It's hard. You don't even have to really introduce Gary Vee, I feel like, at this point. But what I love about Gary Vee is how blunt he is, how charismatic he is, his energy and drive and work ethic. I just really feel like they're unmatched. And whenever I see Gary, he's talking a mile a minute. He's usually yelling. He's got great energy and fervor for whatever it is he's talking about. Now it's NFTs. But you can also tell how much he cares and how much he cares about his company, how much he cares about the things he's passionate about, and how much he cares about helping entrepreneurs and helping people grow. So I love that about Gary Vee. He's just launched a new book called 12 and a Half, which is about the soft skills you need to be a great manager. So to question number 3, maybe your manager needs to read 12 and a Half, which is all about gratitude, humility, empathy, being a good listener, being a great partner, all the skills that you need to help not only yourself succeed, but help the people you work for and you work with succeed at work. So here's my conversation with Gary Vee. We talk about empathy. We talk about being a manager. We talk about harnessing change. We talk a lot about NFTs. And I think it's a great insight into one of the biggest pioneers for entrepreneurs today, how he thinks about his own career, his own mistakes, and his own journey, and how everyone else can learn from that. All right, Gary Vee's here. Hi, Gary Vee.
Hi.
I love seeing you. I'm so happy for you.
Great to see you.
Okay, give us the update on Gary Vee's world. Like, what's happening? What are you working on? You've got a new book.
There's always a lot going on. I think right now, trying to balance how intense VeeFriends, my NFT project, and how explosive the VaynerX Holding Co. Balancing being CEO of 2 companies of that size is a new challenge.
Yep.
I've done it before with Wine Library.
Yep.
When I kind of left my dad's business. It was so emotional. It was my baby. It was my family business. I'd been there forever. And we were just starting VaynerMedia, me and AJ, my brother. And so from 2009 to 2011, I definitely ran both those businesses. But the size of both those businesses were much smaller than what I'm dealing with right now. Plus, it's the moment in Web3, meaning, there's only these 12 to 36 month windows where the whole industry is shaping in front of you. And there's a lot of good getting during that time, right? Investing.
If you can
talent.
get in early.
Timing matters and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's right.
So just trying to balance that, I think, is really intense and challenging and exciting. And then, what's actually being affected by that, because it's really a lot of time and effort, is I'm producing a hair less content than I have over the last 6 years.
Do your fans notice it?
I'm not sure. I haven't seen too many comments, but my output that I believe in so much, I do believe that quantity is very underrated in social media content, is down. On the flip side, me and my team are really, really pushing the envelope to try to make every post have more oomph. And so, trying to figure out how to balance the content output that really brings me a lot of joy. I think for me, I've realized in the last 3 or 4 years that speaking and the Gary Vee thing has a lot more to do with the legacy, the DMs of like, I mean, the post I posted on the way here, guy comes up to me at the secret wine party at the Super Bowl and tells me like, you got me out of debt. Like if you watch that clip, that is a 40-year-old man who clearly had a lot of weight on his chest for 20 years and like 4 pieces of content changed the outcome of his life. That's a high.
Yeah. I think that's where you get your energy.
100%. I can't replicate that of like a good NFT flip or landing a $10 million account. And so just balancing that.
Okay. And at this stage in your life, like what are you still learning? What do you feel like you've mastered and what do you feel like you're still learning?
That's a good question. What am I'm still learning about myself. You know, in the new book, I talk about candor. I mean, it took me, you know, what's crazy for people watching this is Gary Vee biggest strength is candor. But I'm not talking to anybody. I'm talking to the world. And thus, I'm not hurting Dustin's feeling or Johnny's feelings or Susan's feelings. As an operator for 20 plus years, I did everything I could to fix a situation without telling somebody they stunk.
Are you conflict avoidant?
Yes. But what made me build big businesses was not at 12:01.
Okay, got it. Yeah.
At 11:59 I was.
Yes.
At 12:01 I wasn't. I would always do the thing that the business needed.
You got it done.
But it was so, and what I learned and why I wrote about it was so sloppy from 10:30 p.m. to 12:01.
That's right. And the angst and the
And so
inertia.
what would happen, really how it started was I was reading a Facebook group of former employees and there was enough people in there that were not loving me. And I kind of just read it and looked at it and I was like, this is a problem. It's time I fix this. I know who I am. I have no ill will. I only have deep love for my employees. I don't value the money enough to be, why am I in this situation where these people don't feel great towards me and they've worked for me? It's one thing when like Johnny Pants 47 leaves a comment and says, you're full of shit.
Yeah.
That means nothing.
You're like, shut up.
Yeah, in the same way that somebody says you're the GOAT and they don't know you, you can't go high or low
correct.
if you don't know somebody. But when I'm reading somebody who worked for me for 19 months and I feel like I had interactions with them and I know how I run Vayner and they're like, fuck Gary, I'm like, fuck. And when I kind of really dissected it, all of the people that were not pumped all had sloppy exits, whether I got them to quit through them feeling it.
Subtlety.
Or they were pushed out. On Thursday, I would see them in the hall and be like, Karen, keep rocking it.
Yeah.
And on Monday, we're like, you gotta
Karen's
go.
gone. Yeah.
And like that was a real shortcoming. And so I talk a lot about it. And I talk about how I put the word kind in front of candor and it shifted everything for me 3-4 years ago. I just can deal with it more. I can deliver it more. And I practice it more. And it's made substantial. I mean, VaynerX's revenue, business, the P&L, is dramatically stronger today because its CEO got better at candor.
Yeah, yep.
It trickled down. My greatest belief is that a leader's number one goal is to eliminate fear. Hence why it was hard for me to say, Sally, you're really not doing well, and we're going to need to get this better. My thought was Sally leaves my office, goes and gets upset. Johnny leaves my office, goes and gets upset, gets scared, goes on LinkedIn and starts updating.
Shit's all over. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like candor leads to fear, and that's how I saw it for a long time, and that's wrong. But the reason I don't call it candor in the book and call it kind candor is what I know for a fact is over the last 25 years, I've witnessed unlimited inside of my companies or the hundreds of companies I've invested in that people use candor as an excuse to be mean. Managers and bosses use, well, I'm just helping you, but they shit all over you.
Yeah.
Their bedside manners are atrocious. And even though they're helping you, you leave, stunned, demotivated, shook, and you're out the door. So I know that people have a lot of other traits that I talk in this book that are their halves, right? That they're not great at patience, which I think is essential to success. They're not wonderful at empathy. They can't feel for other people. They only think about what's in it for themselves. And that's why I wrote the book. And I think what I've also recognized in my world is over the last 3 or 4 years, my relentless push on be nice, but that's alpha and you can dominate. Like for the Barstool crowd, Barstool boys, that DM me that I can clearly see use different language, use different content, think about how they're going to build their thing differently, that's amazing. That feels like a huge accomplishment. And I think it's time once and for all that we talk about what it is to be a leader and build a big business. And I don't think nice guys finish last.
Yeah.
And I don't believe you need sharp elbows. And I don't think it's you got to be nasty. I have no idea why anybody would verbally dress down an employee in a conference room with other employees in there. There is no logical fucking sense whatsoever to ever do that.
How would you manage that though? Because I think one of the things that's hard, first of all, what I love about your book is that you're historically in management, it's only the hard skills
Correct.
that have been valued. And what you're really saying is that your P&L benefits from soft skills. And the soft skills are what
are actually hard. I can find unlimited people that know how to use Excel.
Correct.
Unlimited people that can sell shit.
Right.
Unlimited.
And it can,
I can find unlimited hard skills. Show me somebody who can be the bigger woman when somebody comes nasty at them, and I'll show you somebody I want to hire.
So how do you manage that? Because I'll give you an example. We have a lot of young managers here.
Yes.
And one of the things that our group struggles with is we drive all over the road. So it's either too kind or not conflict avoidant in being friends, right? It's like a bad parent. I want to be friends with my kid. I want to be friends with my employee.
Yeah, because they're all the same age
dicks.
and they hang out. Like I have the same thing at Vayner. I'm like, being friends is like the least of my concern. There's all sorts of like other dynamics that come with
100%.
young people.
Yeah.
You know, like I think it's this whole conversation. I mean, this is why I wrote the book. I just lived it for the last 13 years. We went from 30 to 450 people in like 3.5 years. I then look at the P&L one day, because I usually don't. I'm pure offense.
Yeah.
I let the finance team, and my brother was really involved in it, but my brother had left now. And 6 months later, I'm looking and I'm like, something's off. And we were just not in a good cash flow place. We weren't running the best business. So I created an offsite immediately, and I sat down with all the leadership team, and I was like, wow, you know, my leadership team's a little delusional on the money side because we've been driving so much revenue. When you go from 3 to like 90 million in 4 seconds.
You only chase vertical growth.
Nobody's paid attention. And I was like, hey, so anyway, long story short, I break down the whole company in a 2-day period, and I realized, between project management and account, there's a lot of overlap. And I was like, you know what? Let's really restructure. And in that restructure, from 35 to 600 people, we're going to let go of 22 people. 22. I think that this is like actually phenomenal, because really it should have been 100, but I didn't want to shake the company up. So I let go of 22 people. We do an offsite to explain, like immediately after we do an all hands on meeting, and I think it's going to be like, Gary's such a great leader. It's so awesome.
He's doing the right thing for the company.
He's explaining it. This fucking company, this is 6 years ago, starts throwing tomatoes at me. Like,
how could you?
What the fuck, and this and that. And I remember, like, which I loved, because I felt like, okay, we have a good culture where people aren't scared to express their feelings. That's the big win. But I went into my office and I'm like, motherfucker, I've created entitlement. And, you know, you go through these journeys. You know, kids managing their friends is awfully hard. You know, and then it becomes personalities, right? Some of your best managers skew too far the other way. You're trying to teach some people, like, no, you got to manage a little bit. And then, but you can't point to Sally or Ricky over here who are completely dick faces about it.
Correct.
And so you're just always trying. I think a lot about purple these days. So America has become incredibly red and blue, and everyone's dug in. Like, to the point where I think people have changed their opinions on issues just to be fully aligned with one side or the other.
It's
which is
identity
devastating.
politics.
That's right. But all the answers are purple.
Of course, everything is gray.
I actually don't know a single person. The most left woke, the most conservative Carl. None of them are fully red or blue. All the answers are purple. And this book talks about the purplification of business, which is, until you realize the soft skills are minimum, in my opinion, equal to the hard skills, I take the point of view that the soft skills are actually the hard skills, and emotional strength is remarkably rare and needs to be fast-tracked in management.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think what's hard about soft skills is that soft skills require you to not only think about the person, but also manage your own ego in the process.
Oh, Like, when you think about this, number 11, humility is impossible. One of the great things for everybody who's watching, because we're talking a little bit about management right now, but this is written for entrepreneur, employee. One of the scenarios in this book is you and your friend are both in the same department. You are best friends, and they get the promotion and you don't. That has ruined a lot of great friendships. Why? Both of you are going to move on to different companies anyway. Why would you burn a bridge?
You're not the same person.
Yeah, it's like at 24 when Sally gets in, not you, but you've been awesome friends since college for 2 years because you met at the office a year in, you're living together. This is all stuff that I'm sure resonates very well with in here because our companies have had similar paths. Like you don't have the humility to be. First of all, I talk about something very important. A human being made a subjective opinion that Sally's slightly better than you, which doesn't mean it's true.
Right. That's
I
just
mean, I've
that
been
one
wrong a
person's
million
opinion.
times, and I have great emotional intelligence. So why are we, like, don't get your feelings caught up. This is why I hate school. School trains people to believe in subjective opinions
Sure, as law.
grades every 90 days. And you just become a fucking robot. You just, like, play within a system, and we, like, lose sight of the bigger stuff. So humility is a huge one, a huge one. For content producers that are watching, one of the reasons I always talk about don't give a shit about the comments, it's not actually because of the hate. People think most of me talking about that is about the trolls, the hate, the negativity. I actually think the positivity is actually more dangerous. Once you get high on your own supply,
it's over.
You become really vulnerable. And so for me at this point in my career, because I do have a lot of love coming my way, you know, I'm so glad I trained myself to not hear it one way or the other because it keeps you humble and grounded and keeps you curious. You know, curiosity, I think, is a massive thing for success. Well, if you think you're the GOAT, you don't think you have to put in the work to be curious. You know how many Instagram GOATs are not putting in the work for Web3 and are going to get passed by? You know how many Instagram GOATs didn't listen to me when I talked about TikTok and let it go by? Like, lack of humility and curiosity will keep you stuck in your spot forever.
Yeah, that's right. I also think caring is a big piece of it. Like, we had someone pretty senior leave last week, and the person did not say goodbye to anyone in their peer group. Which
Were they
I was
upset?
like,
Were they
I
upset
don't
about
know.
leaving?
That's what I'm trying to figure out. I'm that's
listen,
a pretty big statement.
The I don't know what is it. I don't even know if an Irish exit is like a bad like term. I don't know what the current politically correct statements are.
I bet
We're
you
good with
probably
that, right?
can't say
We haven't
we're good.
canceled that, right? Yeah, I'm good with that, right? But whatever that is,
Why would Irish people leave early, though?
I have no idea where that
What
bullshit.
is that about them?
All I know is, let's just call it a Gary Vee exit because
Okay.
I've lived it my whole life. I did it this weekend at NBA All-Star.
Yeah.
I
You're like,
literally
just
left
snuck out
Tyler.
the back.
Just left.
Yeah.
Just have no interest in the goodbye. And so, you know, maybe that's the corporate version of that. Like, I'm pretty you know, I don't want to sit on this couch and be a hypocrite. I feel like I don't think that would be the way I would roll in that environment. But I definitely think that people sometimes just, you know,
They're like, we're done.
Yeah,
I'm done.
And you may hear from that person in a month
Later. Yeah, no. I think
the
it's
thing.
interesting.
And that's the thing. I'm very big on this. The lack of, I think having the ability not to judge might be the greatest gift of all time. You know, like when you just told me that, my brain immediately went into what's going on with them,
Yeah.
right? It's never about you. And that's where, if like people ever figure that out, then you can have a really happy society.
Yeah.
People completely believe that other people's actions have something to do with them. It doesn't. It's like, I call it like the 8th grade zit rule.
Okay.
So in 8th grade, when you got a zit, you were like so fucking petrified to go to school.
Yeah, everybody's
The
gonna
night
see
before,
it.
It was
You're trying every product imaginable.
I went through puberty pretty late and got all my zits in like college, and which really fucking sucked.
Yeah.
But like it wasn't too bad. But like I was good in high school. But like I know that feeling, and my point to everybody is, everybody's worried about their zit.
Yeah.
Like when you come to school,
nobody cares about your zit.
They're worried about their zit.
Yeah,
and the
that's right.
person that actually would pick on you for that, they're in the worst spot because they're so insecure that they're going to attack you first before you get to them.
Sure, they're going to deflect off their
And
zit.
I think grown-ups just still play in high school.
Yeah.
Like I think we're in a place where like all the same shit keeps playing out, and I think a lot of what I wanted to talk about in this book was let's reframe shit because we can.
Yeah. One quick question for you on this is what's your advice to people for how they train themselves, right? Because a lot of what you're talking about is self-control, humility, living by your values, talk about how you train yourself to have better soft skills.
That's a great question. I think, hence why I wrote this, I think it starts first with self-awareness. I think everybody has to look in the mirror and genuinely challenge themselves and say, what am I hiding? What am I full of shit about? The only way you can fix things is acknowledging them. I think we can learn a lot from alcoholism. Really, I mean it. I think we can learn a lot from other things, which is the first step is like owning it.
The 12 step is what you mean.
Yeah, I'm not educated enough, but on the program, I'm incredibly educated that there's no shot that you're going to fix it if you're still in the delusion that you don't have a problem.
Correct. Yep.
I subconsciously knew the candor thing was fucked up.
Yeah, you knew forever.
Forever.
Of course.
Like,
you knew in the 10:30 to 12:01 block how much that sucked. You knew it sucked.
Yes. It would happen infrequently enough that the net...
You could avoid it.
That's right. And it was a lack of accountability, which is my biggest strength in business. But of course, because it's my half, this is where I wasn't accountable. I'm like, Susan should have known she sucked.
It was very obvious that Susan sucked.
How the fuck does Ricky not get it?
Yeah.
Fucking Ricky. Like, he should have, like, come on. Right? And it was also a level of ego. I would care about them so much because I go very family with employees pretty fast. Like, I thought, well, they'll be better with me. Ricky stinks, so he might as well work here because he's definitely not going to do well out there.
Yeah, that's right.
So there was a level of ego in it.
Also, I can save Ricky.
Oh my God! The whole meme of like the girl that tries to fix the bad boy.
Yeah.
Oh my God! I would have been the worst girl. Yeah. Like I would have tried to fix every. That would have been
you
my.
Would have.
That would have been my job. That's the only dudes I would have dated, especially 5 o'clock shadow, light eyes. I would have been dead.
Yeah.
So anyway, that
man is irresistible.
I really think that it comes down. The answer to your question is accountability and self-reflection, and truly challenging yourself to have the combo. Hey, am I actually kind? Like. Hey, am I grateful? The reason gratitude is number one is the whole thing starts with gratitude. If anybody who lives in a first world country should really take a step back and understand that there's 850 million people, almost three times the size of America. Right now, as we sit and film this, there are 850 million people that do not have access to clean water. Like, you're complaining that you didn't go viral on TikTok this month? Like, you're upset that your Uber's 5 minutes late, or you don't have Wi-Fi on United on the way back. Like we just aren't grateful. We're not grateful.
Yeah.
We're not grateful. And if you're grateful, then all of a sudden you're just kind of chilling.
Yeah.
Right? You're like,
which just changes your whole perspective.
Life is only nothing's real. Like on some real shit. Nothing like it's a funny thing to say, but like here's what I mean by that. If the political situation the last decade in America hasn't taught you anything, is like humans have the ability to see what they want to see. Like, you want to be upset that your mom is challenging, or do you want to be pumped that your dad's the best? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, it's your choice.
Like, you choose. Like, you want to be pissed that your job sucks, or do you want to be happy that you got out of Ohio and you live in New York?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Like, you can like decide these things. You're allowed. And I just wish that more people chose gratitude.
Yep, that's a great call. Switching gears a little bit, for this audience, talk about Web3.
So a lot of you in your 20s, 30s, and 40s don't realize that you just became your parents by dismissing NFTs. The same way you're shitting on NFTs is the same way that your parents shit on social media,
and
shit
internet.
On cell phones, shit on the internet. And like, it's a cold shower for a lot of people to hear that. Like, here's the point. Web3 means a lot of things, but the thing that we're all focusing on right now is the consumer blockchain. The blockchain is confusing to people because people bring their internet brain to the blockchain. The blockchain is different than the internet. It's decentralized servers versus centralized servers. It allows for ownership. The internet doesn't. The joke of, well, I'm going to right click and save it. Well, I could take a photo with that dog in here and make pretend it's mine. Like, oh, by the way, Web 2 social media, people make way more pretend of owning something than on Web 3.
Sure.
Because on Web 3, I can look up if your NFT in your bio is something you own. In Web3, in Web2 social media, the guys that go out on a Thursday night in Vegas or LA, stand next to an expensive car and try to claim it their own is much higher than people talk about. Fake watches, fake handbags, like there's a lot of fronting.
It's almost like Web3 is the antidote to
it 100% is.
Web2.
Yet everyone's making the hot take joke that you can right click and save, which is the ironic part of the whole thing. Humans need to survive, need to love, and need to communicate. Food and water, shelter, love, and most of all,
connection.
We need to communicate. Humans talk a lot, we write a lot, we do a lot of things, but the number one way that human beings communicate is through the things they buy. It is the number one thing. The entire globally, the entire fashion industry would not exist if people didn't need to communicate through their purchases. Once people understand that truth, why somebody buys a Mercedes-Benz, why all of us are literally wearing the clothes we're wearing right now, the haircuts we have, the facial hair, like all of it, we need to communicate. NFTs are going to create the biggest economic reality of our need to communicate. The reason kids want Fortnite skins is to flex in their world. Their world is Fortnite. Why does somebody want a blue check? Why do people come here and say, hey, I'm work here, can I
in
get
the
a blue check?
Instagram world.
That's a digital thing.
Yeah.
You don't own that. You don't even own that. You're renting that from Instagram. But why do you want it? Why do you want 1 million followers? Why do you want it? We're living in a digital world. And the next step of that is ownership. But right now, everyone's focus is on the collectability and the art part with a hint of utility. What's going to happen over the next decade is it's going to be utility. That's where you'll see the blockchain really shine. It will be utility with a hint of collectability.
Okay, so
and
give
art.
an example of that.
You buy a Louis Vuitton bag and they give you a receipt, but it's an NFT. That's utility. You've got to get a receipt. But that piece of art was done by a young female artist that 7 years later got famous, and now your receipt is worth $8,000 and you sell it. That's taking a mundane piece of paper, throwing garbage. Madison Square Garden, not too far from here. 6 years from now, you go to the game, it's not a QR code, it's an NFT. The NFT read it, it's a collectible. That night, the Bronny drops 90 points in the Garden, and everybody goes crazy. Now that becomes a collectible.
Yeah, sure.
You're leaving the Garden, and you're getting offers for $400 for that NFT because it's a collectible. But it was a utility. It got you into the place. Your triple bracelet at Coachella, it's an NFT. 6 years later, people are collecting so there's a hint of collectability, but it was utility. And the reason that's going to happen is for Coachella, instead of bullshit bracelets, an NFT with some design on it, and then you sell it for $800. They're getting
great margin. Yeah,
they're getting 10% royalties. Everybody's getting into the record business. Everybody's getting into the publishing business, and it's going to affect everything. Music. No longer are you going to sign with a record label. You're going to sell an NFT to get 20% of the royalties of your new project. Now your fans are making a piece of the money from Spotify, not the label. It's going to change the world, and everybody is underestimating. What about consume to earn? What about if I check in with my wallet on Barstool, and after 6 hours of consuming video, I get a free NFT?
Yep. So talk a little bit about how you incentivize the book.
Right. So this book is will always be a legendary book in the book world because I sold 1.2 million copies in 3 hours, which is insanity. I mean, almost no book ever reaches 1 million copies sold, and it was because if you bought 12 copies of this book, I gave you an NFT. Now, what's really crazy is a lot of people got made fun of it on Twitter and social when this was going down because people were like, bought 960 books. And of course, if you're like having dinner that night, what'd you do today? Ironically, I bought 960 copies of the same book. They're like, what? But what ended up happening is the NFT that I dropped in December is called VeeFriends Book Games. So I turned it into like this game. All of the tokens are worth a fortune more. They're double, triple what people paid for it. Plus they got the books. And some people got very rare ones. I mean, there was a guy who bought 24 books and got one of the characters, the Time Machine Tiny Ogre. There's only 15 of them out of the 125,000. He bought 24 books, aka $480.
Yeah, what's his NFT worth?
He sold his NFT for $128,000, I think.
It's amazing. Good for him.
Good for him.
That's an entrepreneur.
Yeah, but that's lottery and like Mazel Tov. But more importantly, every single person that bought the books, I think the price right now of the floor of book games is like 0.25, right? Something in that range. And at the price that it's currently at, like you're really talking about $500. So like minimally, no matter what, every person that spent $240 got the 12 books. Many use them as gifts, donated to high schools, all this other stuff. But they also got an asset. Plus, that asset is going to be the way that you get series on the friends list to Series 2V Friends, which has a ton of hype going into the spring this year, which will have another chance. But this is what I love about being an owner of an NFT project. You can make it valuable for your audience. You're the central bank.
Sure.
Everybody sees people with audiences come in and they get worried. Is it going to be bad? It should be good if the person has good intent.
Yep. Gary Vee, you're a fucking genius. I love you. You're just inspiring to me. All right, 5 questions.
Let's do it.
First 30 minutes of your morning.
Pretty mundane. In the first 30 minutes, I'm doing like, shower, poopy, brush my teeth.
Shower, shit, shave. You're not shaving.
I don't shave often, but like, yes.
Coffee?
Yes. I like coffee. Kind of just makes me feel like the day's starting.
Grabbing your phone, not grabbing your phone.
Immediate grab phone. I know a lot of people are doing the whole progressive thing.
That's not for you.
Not for me. I'm a firefighter. I have offices in Singapore, London.
Yeah.
Like I have to make sure nothing is burning down.
Yeah,
I don't
right.
have that luxury.
Yep.
That's
and
what
you also love it. You love what you do.
I do love it, but but honestly, it's not the best part of the job. Like this is where I'm in love with the number 2 or the number 3 or the number 4 for a lot of, unless you have the stomach to be a number 1, it's not exciting to wake up and be like, what are the problems?
Yeah.
All I do is like, what are the problems?
Yeah, you're like, that's what my day is like. All right, what's something you do every day?
That was a fire hose, not a gun, everybody.
Yeah, no, I don't know. It depends on who you ask. But what's something you do every day without fail?
Every day, I have a moment where I just say thank you that nobody I love died.
Okay.
Every day. It really works for me. It's the ultimate version of gratitude. I'm just grateful that the people I love were still with me today.
Yep.
It's big for me.
Do you make any time to do the yard sale thing anymore?
Oh yeah, I'm like literally it was a little warm in New York the last couple days.
Yeah, this weekend was amazing.
I'm like, it's coming. Like
season's here.
Trash talk is very important to me because when I talk about NFTs or I talk about investing in startups or I talk about the stuff we talked about here, many people DM me and say things like, Gary, I only have $90, so I'm not buying shit. And so that kept building, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to start making content of what I did when I had $90 in high school and college when I had no fucking money at all and I wanted it. I garage saled, and I didn't even have eBay yet. Like, I used to buy this shit and sell it at flea markets. That was fucking hard. When my brother was a kid, 11 years younger than me, and we started doing it, we had eBay, and that was insane. Early eBay, you got really paid in garage selling. And it's probably the thing I'm most excited about. The amount of people that hit me up and say, hey, I made $8,000 this summer.
And you're so fired up. It's like your victory.
And it's emotional stuff.
Yeah.
It's, hey, I made $8,000. I paid down some credit card debt, and I'm taking my kids to Disney World this Christmas.
Yeah.
Like, that's some, like, tear shit.
Yeah, absolutely.
It feels nice instead of, like, sleeping in on a Saturday.
I think that you are such a hunter. When I think about you, I think you're such 100%. A hunter. You're just a 100%. Hunter. But you also have this rare gift where you're not just out for you. Like, you're sharing your hunting, which I think is so generous.
It's something I'm very, thank you. I think that's right. And it's, again, back to humility. It's like, I got the luck of the draw of great parenting, circumstance, and DNA. But yeah, I want everybody who allocates any time to consuming me to win too.
Yeah, that's right.
Why wouldn't I?
Yeah, absolutely.
Doesn't come out of me.
All right, what's something that surprised you this week?
That's a great question. I was surprised that I'm going to think about Cleveland, the All-Star Weekend. What was the most surprising thing there? That people are really affected by cold.
Don't like it.
Don't like it. I was born in the Soviet Union, so like cold is like cool for me. Like I'm good with it. Evan Mobley's going to be a beast, the Cleveland rookie. He's like the next Tim Duncan. So that
Are you following the Ukraine thing closely?
I am.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
When you're from that part of the world,
yeah, you should. Yeah.
You're just closely attached to it.
Yep. What gives you hope right now?
People give me hope. I think human beings are massively underrated. I'm very in tune and aware that everyone's super hot on saying how much we suck right now. I see it the complete other way. I think that people are grossly underestimated. Every day there are trillions of people doing wonderful things for other people. And human beings give me tremendous hope. We are infatuated with nitpicking what somebody else is doing poorly. We've become in love with pointing fingers. We love slinging shame. And it's really unfortunate because most people are really coming from a good place. And I hope we get to a different energy around this issue.
Yeah, it'd be nice if everybody could see purple and kind of work in purple. What's a business you're investing in now besides NFTs?
NFT infrastructure. I'm pot committed.
You're all in.
I'm pot committed
Yeah.
Web3. I don't play poker, but I'm dangerous enough to know that I don't know this, but I know real poker players can look at the board and know they have the best hand, the nuts, right? Mm-hmm. That's how I'm playing Web3. This is the best
You're
hand.
all in. This
I'm
is Gary's
100%
bet.
sure. I need to learn. Here's the thing. Even if all of the bets lose, I need to learn everything.
Yeah, you're like,
because
it's
the
tuition.
entire world is going
It's
to
tuition.
be. Yeah.
That's awesome. Mm-hmm. All right, Gary Vee, thanks for doing this.
Thanks for
I
having
appreciate
me.
you so much.
Good to see you.
Congratulations. So cool. All right. Okay. Grove Collaborative. Okay. We're going to talk for a second about Grove Collaborative. What the fuck is Grove Collaborative? It's a website?
Yes, it's a website that has like all home products, like pet stuff, cleaning stuff, like shower, kitchen stuff, and it's like a box cleaning. Yeah, and it's like when you buy it through them, it's like almost a subscription, but you get to pick certain things each time.
Why don't we describe this like that? We should just actually construct, when we give people an ad read, we should just say what the company does.
Wait, that's so funny that you say that, because the girl that writes them literally came over to us this morning and was like, I heard there's some problem with your ad reads. We're like, they're kind of long.
Yeah, we're like, oh, she did?
Well, that's good. She should come over. I want to keep this in, P.S.
It's sustainable though is their big thing, and it's a new advertising.
It's like Mrs. Meyer's, you can get it at Target for like $7 for the soap, but if you get it through here, you get it for like $4.
That is all I needed to know. We're going to make up our own ad read, so apologies to the Grove people, but this is just how it works around here. If you want to buy things that are good for your home, good for your body, good for your soul, good for the environment, and you want to buy them at an affordable price, you go to grove.com. If you use /token, you get a free gift set worth up to $50. So the best thing about Grove is you can get cleaning products, hand soap. We were just talking about Mrs. Meyer's. I love Mrs. Meyer's. Big fan of the rhubarb soap. Rachel, being an angsty millennial, likes lavender, naturally. I also really like the honeysuckle. Do you like the honeysuckle? Yeah. Honeysuckle's great. I love Mrs. Meyer's soap. I would buy like 7. Just makes me happy. It makes me feel like I'm getting a better life when I buy a Mrs. Meyer's soap. You can shop for all of this kind of stuff. If it costs you $10 at Target, it's going to cost you less than that. You can reuse products. They make it very easy. I will use Mrs. Meyer's. So spray bottle and concentrate. Refillable hand soap and dish soap, Seedling, I like the Seedling brand, Seedling paper towels, and reusable bags. Okay, I appreciate the salespeople thinking that this is what I would buy. I would definitely not buy a walnut scrubber sponge. I can't even say that. I don't even know what that is. And if I look like the kind of woman who has time for laundry sheets, like I just wish I had that kind of life. So go to grove.com today /token. Apologies to anyone and everyone I've offended with this, but this just seems an efficient, fast way to learn about how to do something better. So if I were reconstructing this ad read, I would maybe say to the producers of this show, hey, Erika, you seem stressed and you have a lot going on at work and things seem kind of like a mess at Barstool Sports. So why don't we create an integration for Grove Collaborative where you create a cleanup section of your podcast? They march downstairs or over the way. They go find the blondes that work on this show. They say, hey, blondes, we have a new advertiser. We're really excited about it. It's about organic products, which we know Erika loves. Here's 4 ideas for how we could bring that to the show. I would love this advertiser to stay with me, and I'm not sure it is. I'll just get another alcohol brand because I don't do those ads without fucking up. But anyways, this is the type of evolution we're going to make here. All right, close of business. Hit me, Bryn. What do we got?
Sportswear brand Fila opening hotel in Shanghai. Fila is partnering with Hyatt on a lifestyle hotel, which will be called the Fila House.
Ooh, I kind of love that.
Yeah. Like
I love
branding around it.
I love that. Targeted at women or just in general?
In general.
Fila House is a great idea.
Yeah. The future of Best Buy, at-home gyms, e-bikes and outdoor grills. So they're trying to expand.
E-bikes, outdoor
At-home
grills.
gyms, e-bikes, outdoor grills is going to be at Best Buy now.
First of all, whoever shops for those three things, in my opinion, don't go together. E-bikes and at-home gyms obviously go together. But if you're
Outdoor
like,
grills.
what's the go-to? Why do you go to Home Depot? You need shit for your house. Why do you go to Best Buy? You need an electronic something. Nobody in their head, they're like, neurons aren't like, I need a grill, a weight bench, and a Peloton.
Yeah, not
you
going
know?
to Best Buy for that.
I don't think it's going to work.
NCAA makes equity improvements to women's basketball tournament. So they are trying to offer more things similar to the men's tournament. Like swag bags, lounges are going to be the same as the men's tournament.
What a novel concept. Way to go, NCAA. Look, I think the NCAA is just issuing press releases so that they are saying they're doing the right thing. As everyone will recall, 12 months ago, the women had to work out in essentially with like one triangle of 5 to 10 pound weights in a hotel ballroom, and the men had like 2 gyms.
Yep.
Women were eating, they basically sounds like they were eating like Olympics caliber food, and the men are having like filet.
Yeah.
So like,
it's
you
about
should,
time. Okay, last one. Pete Davidson in talks to head to space on Jeff Bezos' Blue Origin flight.
I think he would be very entertaining to go up into space with.
All right, that's it.
I think it's a stunt.
Yeah,
I think it's a stunt.
he's relevant.
All right. Well, that's it for today, Bryn. I'm going to go get myself a walnut scrubber sponge now. Please watch this on YouTube. So that they don't remind me of that every time we do this. Please watch this on YouTube. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. You can find us on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn. Our job board is updated. We had a backlog of jobs. It's updated. All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.